Okay, so this is my O2 Grand Prix, and lately I've noticed a whooshing sound, which we have come to discover is the driver's side rear wheel bearing, which is loose and bad, so today we're going to change it. Okay, so we have the wheel off and we're up on jack stand, so it's pretty safe and secure. Next thing to do is to take off the brake caliper and the rotor. And yeah, then we'll get into the bearing, which is in behind there. Okay, so here's the brake rotor with the caliper off. Caliper is now suspended from a coat hanger in the suspension, just so that it doesn't hang on the hydraulic hoses. And the next thing to do will be take off the rotor and see what's behind it. Okay, so now we have the bearing exposed. We have to undo 4 bolts. There's kind of a little hole there, you can kind of see the bolt through it. And they're 10mm bolts, and off it'll come. Okay, so those are the 4 bolts that came out of the bearing. So now it is not attached in any significant way. However, it may be quite stuck. So we may have to use a hammer and give it a good whack and see if we can get it loose. Okay, so after a lot of smashing and pounding and hammering and screwdriver wedges and that sort of thing, the whole thing actually comes right off the car. So we have to disconnect the parking brake assembly from the bearing, and then the bearing will come out and we can replace it with a new one. Okay, so we now have the new bearing in and the park brake assembly is back together. Basically the rule is anything you took apart you have to put back together. It's either with new parts or with the same old ones. Yeah, just wiggle the bearing in. It's a tight fit so that it stays the way it's supposed to. Next thing we're going to do is put the rotor on. So we've got the wheel bearing changed and everything's tightened back up, and we're going to take it for a test drive and see if it fixed the whooshing noise, which I'm sure it has.